putting together commercial crab pots every year. I buy as many as I can afford, basically. Try to get at least a couple hundred new ones every single year to add into the rig. This year I got all my pots built in 1.5 by 2-inch wire, steel wire. And when you set them up to the way you run your boat. So if you work from the front of the boat back, you set them up one way, or from the back of the boat forward, or fish underwater lines or fish singles. I fish underwater lines and I fish from the front of the boat back. So that will determine placement of a lot of the accessories on the crab pot. So when I get them built, they are a steel cage just like this. They have 4 funnels made out of 17 gauge chicken wire. The carcass of it is made out of 1.5 by 2 galvanized wire. The bridge inside is made of 1.5 square wire. So the crabs will swim through the funnels into the bottom of the pot. There's bait in this bait well in here. And then crabs always work their way up. Most crustaceans do, I don't know why. But as other crabs get into the pots, the other crabs will kind of run away from them. They'll work their way up the bridge through these 2 holes in the bridge. And then once they're in the top of the pot, if they're, big enough to stay in the pot, they'll get trapped inside. And then in order to get them out, you have this top door. This will open, will shake the crabs out of the pot. Ideally, by the time you get to fishing the pot, most of the crabs have worked their way from the bottom to the top of the pot. So we'll put one together. Each pot by law is required to have 2 of these rings called call rings. I put them right here on the sides, even placement. This is sort of a preference thing. If I cut them, and then you can bend these wires out to hold the ring. I put them both on the same side. I put them on the same side so that when the pot comes up over the rail, the guy's going to open the door up like this. He's going to be facing the pot just like this. So if he needs to get to these rings for anything, he doesn't have to spin the pot around. So it saves you a lot of time. So those go in there like that. You bend these wires over and leave these 2. They're cut so you can move them, bend them to the side and open the rings up. And then I use 3/4 inch hog rings like this. And I'll put one on top here. And then one on the opposite side on the bottom so that this ring can't move up and down. If you put them both on top or both on the bottom, this ring will slide up and down. Like this ring, see how it can move like this? And you don't want that. You want it to be still in there. So I use 3/4 inch rings, one on the top, and one on the bottom there. And then these wires get pushed to the side there. So this lets any undersized crabs or any fish out of the pots. So next, I'll put a zinc bar in the corner. This is a bar of zinc. It's a sacrificial anode for the pot because it's made out of steel. If you put one of these overboard in the brackish water that we crab in without an anode in it, it won't last a month or 2. You need to have an anode. So every single pot, when it's brand new, either gets 1 large zinc or 2 small zincs. And then every year after that, you have to put an additional small zinc in the pot. You don't have to cut the old ones out, but once all 4 corners get filled up, I cut out the one that's burned up the most. So I take the zinc bar and I bend the wires up like this. I put them in the corner. You slide them in the pot like that. And then you have your wires sticking out, and I'll bend them around like this. And then I take my finger and thumb and I bend the wire just like that. And then you'll take this and I push it around with my thumb like this, and then you can twist it. It takes some tough hands, and then you'll have them like that. You want the wire stacked as close as you can. You don't want it like running up, twisted real loose up. Do the same thing on the bottom. And then out of all the tools, I use just a pair of these pliers because they have the teeth in here, and you can grab the little tag end like this, and you can twist it around. And you want it tight. You want to kind of bite it and get it tight so it bunches it up into like a coil. But you don't want it so tight that you'll snap this wire. You can get them so tight and you'll break this off. Or if you get them under so much tension, when the pots are getting shook and fished and everything, these wires will snap and these big zincs will be hanging in the pot and then they're not effective. I'm a little OCD about it, so I take the pliers and I squeeze it and I stack the metal so it's in these nice, even little coils. Just to make sure, basically what you're doing is you're making an electrical connection between the steel pot and the zinc bar. You need, because electrolysis is what corrodes the steel. So in order to prevent that, you need what would be a good electrical connection between the anode and the pot itself. Really, anytime you put two dissimilar metals together, you're essentially making a battery. So this steel galvanized wire and these stainless rings is going to create a lot of electrolysis between the two dissimilar metals. So you have to put in, if you were to put this pot in without an anode, it would start to rust anywhere there's a dissimilar metal. So if you put a zinc in here, it doesn't prevent it totally, but it elongates the life of the pot. So then after that, you're going to put a door strap on here. I use vinyl doors because when the pots get old and this falls apart, you can cut these off and reuse them. And like I said, with the dissimilar metals, if you have steel galvanized door and it's held in here with a bunch of stainless rings, I find that the pots that I have that are older, it starts to rot away this thin metal up here. And so they don't last quite as long. So I use a vinyl coated wire for this. It tends to make the whole pot last a little bit longer. It's more expensive, but I feel like it pays off in the long run. So I take this strap here. This is just rubber strap. It comes in a big coil. And I put it on the third one in here. And you just fold it over. Use the semi-automatic hog ring gun. Uses a taped ring. And then fold it over, squeeze it together, put a ring, it'll hold it, a stainless ring. And then I'll use one of these plastic hooks here, and it goes through. And then I'm going to take it to the same corner on the other side and fold it over. Put another stainless ring right here. And that is your door strap that holds the top door, your dump door, shut. And when you open it, you'll hook it on the back here and you'll hold it open so it's not flopping around and the crabs aren't grabbing onto it. All right, so once we have this, flip the pot again, flip it up, and we are going to put one of these doors. This is the bait door, we call it. It's half by half vinyl coated wire. This is again a spot where the old pots tend to burn up and fall apart because of the, if you have a steel one of these on there. So I try to use these, and you can reuse these off of old pots. So I'll hinge it on the bottom here with the top door facing that way so that whenever the pot comes up, they don't have to flip it around and the door will just fall right open. We're using these stainless rings again. I usually put about 4 of them on there, and then the corner here, because we're going to have a rubber strap that goes across it. The corner here, I'm going to take these pliers and bend the corner out just a little bit. Not so much that it sticks straight down, because I don't want it to get caught on things, but just enough that rubber strap has something to stop it. I'm going to take a shorter piece of this strap and put it in the corner here. Same thing as the door. Another ring here. Stretch this across to right here. Fold it over. Another ring. So then you have your strap here. And so the pot, when it comes in the boat, will be facing like this, with this facing the outside of the boat and the door facing the inside, the call box. So the guy, all he has to do to get the old bait out is pull this up and the door falls right open. So it saves you from having to flip the pot around at all or beat it up anymore, you know what I mean? Have it handled any more than it needs to be. The pot comes over the rail, they just pull on that strap and the door falls right open and the old bait can fall right out. I'll take this and cut an X and bend the wire into a circle like this. And this is the opposite corner of the pot that the clip line is going to be tied to. Because in the middle of the summer, when there's a lot of jellyfish in the bay, they're getting stuck in the pots when they're coming up through the water column. The whole pot will be full of jellyfish. And to prevent the whole mess and getting stung and everything, if I cut this ring out, the jellyfish will run to this corner in theory because it's getting pulled through the water on the opposite corner. And then the jellyfish will fall out of this ring. It just saves them from getting all in the pots. The guy shakes them and it explodes jellyfish everywhere. So not everybody does this, but I like to do it because this half a second that it takes to do it will be well worth it when you're not getting stung by a million jellyfish and it's already like 100 degrees out, 1,000% humidity and whatever else. Then we're going to flip the pot upside down like this. We're going to take one of these. They're made out of rebar. This is called an iron. Some people call them a frame. This is 1/2-inch rebar. This thing probably weighs about, I don't know, 7 pounds or so. Each pot has one of these. I typically use a 1/2-inch. It's not so heavy that the pot gets all beat up, and it's, you know, it's not super expensive to make or to have built. I find it's a good medium instead of like a 5/8 or a 3/4 way too big for where we fish. So when I put this on the bottom of the pot, each one of them has one corner where it's welded. I put that corner in the same corner as the jellyfish ring on every single one, because when you're hauling gear, sometimes the pots will bang against the side of the boat, and that's the opposite corner of where we're going to tie our line at. So that corner is going to be the last corner to hit the boat if you're hauling gear and the irons are whacking the side of the boat. Because sometimes if you have them and you're hitting the welded corner on the side of the boat, it'll break the weld. The irons. I'm using these bigger hog rings. These are they make a couple different sizes, a couple different styles. These are like ones where you just squeeze them once. They're pretty nice. They're galvanized. I like these ones. And they make actual pliers for them like this, but I don't like these as much. I find the best tool to use is actually these old style channel locks. You have to get the ones with the little circles punched out of them, or else, you know, if you have the new style like the vice grip ones that have the little quarter circles, you'll strip them out and you'll ruin the pliers squeezing these for whatever reason. So I go to the flea market and buy all these old cheap pairs of these that have the old stamp style, because for whatever reason these work better. So on the sides of the pots where there's a seam, where there's two wires that come together, where this is a little thicker, the end wire is a little thicker, I put one of these on both sides, you know, each corner. And then when I flip the pot, see how it's one seam here. I'm gonna skip this corner over here and put one on this corner just to hold it. And then another side where it's got two seams, I'm gonna put one on both sides. This last one here, put one here. There's only one wire here, so we're only gonna put it on one side. And that gives it enough that if the line shouldn't get caught underneath the corners, it holds the corners down. And also you can use, if you do them in order like that, it will self-square itself on the bottom, so you're not warping the pot with the iron if the iron isn't quite square. So it's just enough that, you know, we don't have one here, but we have one here and here. It saves you 2 rings, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're putting together hundreds and hundreds of these, it ends up being hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And it's any other metal that you have on the pot is accelerating the rust, you know, the deterioration of the pot itself. So now we're going to flip it up like this. Take one of these leads that I've tied. This has the clip on it. With this, it's about 3 feet before you tie the knot. And this is going to get tied on this corner. So you have your top door here with the strap, same side as the call rings, opposite corner of the jellyfish ring and the weld on the iron. And I tie this with a clove hitch. So I'll see if you can see it. I'll put it right here, either in this one or this one here. Put it over, around, and then I'll put it through the back and grab it with my fingers, and then kind of tie this little knot to it. So like this, you have a tag end right here, and pull it tight. It's called a clove hitch. And then I'll take a ring. I only need one here, typically. And on the bottom, I'll take the tag end and I'll clip it to the wire right there. So after we tie the clove hitch on here and we clip it with one of the stainless rings, I like to pull the knot tight. I found the best tool to do that is actually the hog ring pliers. They're actually great for picking knots too, because they're short and kind of blunt like that. You can get in there and squeeze, but it's cut perfect for rope. And you can pull it tight without breaking the rope itself. So I get in there and just kind of pull the knot tight, not so tight that you can hear the rope strand start to break, but just tight enough that it's not going to come undone. So basically, that's it. She's ready. This will get clipped onto a main line with 24 other pots, 25 total. There's 75 foot in between each one. It's called an underwater line, which is what I fish. So basically, if we were crabbing, this would come up, and I pull the pot up over the rail like this. This would be unclipped off the main line here. This clip would go on top of the pot, and then you would open the door and see how it's long enough that it stays on there, and it will hold, if you open this door, it holds the clip, so the clip isn't getting caught on stuff. And then the pot would get flipped up, and then I would pull this strap and let that door fall open just like that. See? Just pull on that. The old bait falls out, and then the pot would get tipped upside down. I'd put bait in here, close it up, shake the crabs out, and then flip it back over and shut the door with new bait, and all the crabs are dumped out of it. So that's how you put together a commercial grade pot. I have one down and I got about 199 more to go. If you like this video and you found it helpful or not, you can like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm a commercial crabber in the Chesapeake Bay, Maryland. I'm trying to give everybody a little bit of an insight into the details of what it takes to get ready and actually go crabbing.